Hi, I'm Diane Ferraro, and I'm the founder of Urban Siren, and I love to come together on the full and new moons with you to explore the symbolism around the astrology, around these moons, and what signs the moons are going to be in, and also explore the tarot cards that are associated with those signs. So this week, the week of February, at this date on February 16th, we are going to have a full moon in the sign of Leo. And that's going into that effect just before noon on the East Coast, around 11:56 a.m. to be exact, on the 16th. And so what I'd love to do in this episode is talk with you a little bit about the significance of the full moon in Leo, and also talk to you a bit about Pisces season, which is coming up on the 18th of this month. So we're going to do a combined episode in this particular session, and we're going to look at both things. We're going to look at the full moon in Leo, and we're going to look at Pisces season coming up, okay, all in the same week. So if you're joining me by podcast, you're listening to Urban Siren Podcast. And if you're joining me on my YouTube channel, I'm glad to see you here, and you'll see the visuals on the YouTube channel. So and all those links will be in the show notes if you want to jump around from platform to platform. I'm totally cool with that. So let's take a look. First of all, let's take a look at the sign of Leo as we're coming into the full moon this week. And let's look at the card that associates with Leo. It's the Sun card in the Tarot. Okay, so if you're checking out the visuals on YouTube, you can see the card I'm holding up. And for those of you listening to the podcast, not watching the video, I'll explain the card as well. So I'm using the Smith Rider-Waite deck. It's sort of considered a modern classic. And in this version, you see a child, a little baby on a white horse. The sun is shining really bright. Sunflowers are all around. Just the baby smiling, wearing a crown of flowers. It's a really joyous and jubilant scene. But the card itself, while it is about expression and it is about being seen, and it's a little bit deeper than that, to be honest with you, because with being seen, right, when we come forward and we allow ourselves to be seen, we then allow ourselves to be vulnerable, right? So being vulnerable can be a little bit tricky and triggering, okay, at times. So I want to bring up the fact that there's really no there are cards in the tarot that are associated with good tidings and so forth, and the sun has traditionally been a card that associates with good tidings and great fortune and just positive joy, okay? And it's not that it's not that, it is that, but I want to challenge that just a little bit, because with being seen, with coming into celebration of the self, all of that entails authenticity and being vulnerable. And so it's a little bit of an exploration into, we do want all good things to happen for us, right? But do we ever sometimes wonder what comes along with those good things that happen to us? Sometimes it requires that we step outside of our comfort zone. Sometimes it is an invitation for us to let our guard down, and that can be difficult sometimes, especially when we are in protective mode. We're guarding ourselves, our walls are up, our emotional walls are up. And so the Sun card, while it is exuberant and joyous, it can also be triggering at times, right? Because it does invite us to really come forward and be who we are. And with that is the dropping of a lot of guises, right? The Sun card doesn't invite us to come in and be something that we're not. It doesn't encourage us to be, unauthentic or false in any way. So maybe consider that during this full moon in Leo. The full moon is an invitation to release. So the energy around the full moon is that of letting go. And also it's a great time to assess. It's a great time to see what has come to pass. Last time we met over the new moon, if you remember. And so now we've gone a couple of weeks, and here we are coming into the new cycle of the full moon. And so what has transpired between now and the new moon that we just went through? So what has come through for you? What projects did you launch? Did you launch any projects? Did you start anything new? Did you embark on a new relationship? Could be professional, could be romantic, could be platonic, any kind of relationship. Did you take on a new set of like goals and focuses? Like, have you decided since when did you plant the seeds in the last new moon to do something differently, to maybe take care of yourself in a better way or a different way, or a way that's more sustainable? All kinds of, last time we talked, if you haven't listened to the previous episode, feel free to do that. And then if you like, continue and come back around and listen to this one just as a refresher to see what came through for you in the last 2 weeks, because the full moon is now an opportunity for us to assess where we've come, and to really, it's kind of a great time for a SWOT analysis, right? To determine what's working, what's not, what needs to be changed, what are the challenges, what are the obstacles, and all the rest of it. So, and it shines light, right? So on the full moon, we can really see, right? If the clouds are not in the way, we can really see, much like the illumination of the sun, right? Shines down on us, we can see. It's very similar in the sense that the full moon allows us to see and to bring things forward. So I encourage you to think about that. What's happening for you these days? And what can you look at to reassess? Because the Leo, and I want to talk a little bit about this before we launch into Pisces, because Pisces is going to be the next zodiacal season we're entering. It's a big one. It's a powerful one. They're all powerful, but this is the last of the on the wheel of the year, the 12th house, Pisces, and so we're going to come into that this week, okay? And then before you know it, we're going to be in Aries season, guys, and it's coming, okay? So new beginnings. So anyway, before we move in that direction, I just want to talk a little bit more about how Leo associates with astrology. Leo is of the 5th house in astrology, okay? And it is ruled by the sun, okay? We talked about that. And what is the 5th house in astrology? The 5th house in astrology can sometimes be considered the house of pleasure, right? It's where our creativity blossoms, our passions, our play, fornication, not for the purpose of procreation, okay? So fornication for fun, all right, for recreation. It can be the house of the first child. It's just associated with bringing forth our expressiveness. So on this full moon, you can also think about what is it that how are you moving through the world? How are you allowing people to see you? And is your expressive and creative and playful nature being illuminated now? Or are you suppressing it? Or are you feeling like it doesn't have a place? So this is a great opportunity to, on the full moon in Leo, to put yourself out there, to talk about what it is that you're doing in a way that is exciting and gets people engaged and allows people to really connect with you. Okay, so it's a great time to launch something. If it's business, you can launch a new project, a new business, make an announcement publicly that you're doing something that's maybe even a little bit out of your normal periphery, because again, the house of creativity. So you might be, if you've been keeping a lid on some new project because you feel like, oh, it's not me, and people won't be able to believe that I'm doing this kind of thing. Like if you're really going outside of your comfort zone, but you're really passionate about the project, this is a great new moon to talk about it and to put it out there and let people know that you're doing it. Let the light shine on you. And I think you'll be surprised at the reception you get. Okay, so it's a lot in your favor to be able to put yourself out there under the auspices of this full moon in Leo. It's a great time also to solidify and even like rework like your business manifesto, right? So if you are working on, say, an about page on your website, or you're trying to come to terms or come to some reconciliation with how you describe yourself in business, this is a great new full moon rather to put that together, about describing yourself, writing a bio, looking at your resume, revamping your resume, and getting it out there. So this is a week to put it out there. Put out there what it is that you want to create. It's a lot going for you in this week, okay? So the energies are with you for that, all right? And let's now move into what Pisces season okay, is going to look like. So Pisces season is coming up on the 18th of this month, February. And I want to talk a little bit about the card that associates with Pisces. It's the Moon card in the Tarot, okay? And if you want a deeper dive into the Moon card and Pisces, I did an episode, episode 27, and it's called Pisces, the Moon card, Werewolves Are People Too. I think that's a really pretty cute title. I'm really chuffed with it. And so check out episode 27 and you'll get a deep dive into the Moon card and how it associates with Pisces and the 12th house in the zodiacal wheel. So moving into Pisces, we are going to be coming into the final chapter of the zodiacal wheel. It's a time of year where we're just coming through the dead of winter. The next cycle will launch spring. And I don't know about you, but I'm in the northern hemisphere and I am on the east coast of the United States. And I just saw buds coming through, little fuzzy buds on the trees in my neighborhood just the other day. I couldn't believe it. We just had snow. But it's coming. Spring and life is coming back to earth. At the same time, we're going through a death process in the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of secrets in astrology. What we like to keep under wraps, what we'd rather not advertise, okay? Things that we don't really want to put ourselves, we don't want to make it public. We don't want to make it known, which is a very interesting sort of, I don't want to say contradiction, but it's an interesting paradox, I suppose, if you will, to the full moon that's happening earlier in the week, just a couple of days before the sun moves into the sign of Pisces. So here you have the full moon in Leo going, get out there, get out there, get out there. And then Pisces, a very intuitive sign, super psychic, super dreamy, poetry, creative writing, photography. But you see how that blends so nicely with the full moon in Leo of the same week? It's an invitation for you to blend these two energies however you see fit. But just to remember that if you're feeling internal, if you're feeling like you don't want to put yourself out there too much, that could be the energy of Pisces coming in at the end of the week. So I would say, don't delay. Try to get that new project out sooner rather than later before doubt creeps in, okay? Pisces is not a doubtful sign by nature, but when it's not quite in balance, it can feel like almost a introverted is fine. I feel introverted most of the time, but when we're in an introverted state, we don't usually think of ourselves as being outward. Right? We don't think of ourselves as having like much outward motion. So I would just invite you to balance those energies, but take advantage of the energies that are coming through to you that feel supportive and nurturing. So I would hasten to guess that later on in the week, after the 18th and after, you may start to feel a little bit more internal, a little bit more introverted, a little bit more like kind of like a quiet, sort of like a blanket of just like downy fur coming down over your psyche, just to give you a little time out, a little space for yourself. That could be coming through for you at the end of this week, and then of course for the next few weeks until we move into Aries season in March, on the spring equinox actually. So the spring equinox is our next big cycle of the yearly quarters. So we've got the spring equinox coming in just a few weeks. But I think we'll all see signs of life coming through. You'll see those buds coming on the trees. We don't have to wait until March 20th to feel that and to see it. I feel like spring will be showing itself sooner rather than later. So consider these energies just blending together and how you want to balance that. And I just want to talk a little bit too about a card that I haven't touched on. I don't think I have in the podcast yet, But I want to just talk about the Hanged Man just for a moment, and then how it relates to the Moon card a bit, because the Hanged Man comes in earlier. It's the 12th card in the Major Arcana, and the Moon is the 18th card. So it comes in sooner. It's almost, the Hanged Man is a place where we are feeling like we're in limbo, where we're kind of between two things, and we're not moving forward yet. We're in that chrysalis. We're in that state of development. Okay. It's like the butterfly, not quite the butterfly yet. Okay. So we're still in the chrysalis. We're not fully formed yet. All right. So from caterpillar to butterfly, we're in that bardo state, to borrow a Buddhist term. We're in that middle state, the middle ground. And it can feel super uncomfortable being in the Hanged Man, because many of us, we want answers. The mind wants to know. And the Hanged Man is sort of a preparatory card for the Moon in a way. It's like, if you feel like you're uncomfortable now, wait until the Moon shows up, because the Moon has long been considered a card of like emotional tumultuousness, because we don't know what's happening. The Moon is not here to give us the answers. More though, the Moon is to say, to stay with the discomfort. If you're in the middle of if you're in that Hanged Man state, if you're in that middle ground, you don't know what's happening. You can't see quite clearly. Okay. So it's a very introspective card, which is perfect as it lines up with Pisces, the zodiacal sign of Pisces. So think about that moving forward into the rest of February, how you might learn and work to trust the not knowing, and to trust in some way the process while being fully present. And if we marry that with the Sun card, then we understand that, you know, it's a cycle of moving through. It's an ebb and flow constantly. There's contraction and there's expansion in our psyches, in our bodies, in our hearts, in our emotions, in our minds. Okay.